When we fall off the path of righteousness, it may feel debilitating. It may hurt getting knocked down. There may be fear. We may feel that we cannot move forward, that we might not make it. But as long as we get back up and keep moving forward, then there is absolutely no obstacle we cannot overcome. There will be many things on our path in this life that will come to distract us, that will come to destroy us. And without these things, there would be no contrast. There would be no way for life to be experienced. So the first thing we must do is recognize and accept that these things are a part of life. And not only are they a part of life, but they are absolutely necessary. And that everything is exactly as it should be. To surrender completely to what is. To accept the past and to accept ignorance of the future. Once we can surrender to what is, then we can rest a bit more at ease, not worrying so much, not having so much fear. The next step is to reflect after we've been knocked down. How did we get here in the first place? What were the actions that led us to our temporary fall from grace? And what you will often find is that it all starts with one small choice at a time. A choice that we may have made a week ago or a month ago may still continue to affect us to this day, because every action is interdependent. Each day is interdependent. One thing always leads to another. And so it is the accumulation of our past actions, our past thoughts and emotions that lead us to where we are today. And what you will often find is that it all begins with energy leakages, with entropy, with chaos. Because we are an orderly system. But when we allow the chaos in, oftentimes it can compound into a force that is too heavy a burden. And we must understand that in this universe, it is much easier to fall down than it is to get up. It takes no effort to fall, but it does take effort to rise. This is the beauty of our human experience, to rise in spite of our limitations, to rise up against the force of evil and destruction. And so there are many practical things we can do to avoid allowing too much entropy into the system. Because once the entropy is too much, we fall into a downward spiral. And then it is often said that when we hit rock bottom, that is the foundation in which we can rise up again. But all rock bottoms are just temporary stops on a downward spiral of infinite demise. Because a black hole is infinite, there is no bottom. So often the question we have to ask ourselves is, how low do we want to go? We know where the path leads. We know where our vices and addictions will take us. The question is, have we had enough yet? Have we had enough suffering to turn from our bad behaviors or self-destructive behaviors? And sometimes the answer is no, we have not had enough yet. But regardless of our current life circumstances, we always have the option to be more aware, to learn more about ourselves, to engage in the journey of self-discovery. In fact, these low moments when we've fallen off the path, perhaps we even find ourselves in hell, these are the moments of the greatest self-discovery, of the greatest awareness. Because if you think about it practically, when we are suffering, we become more aware because we do not want the suffering to continue. So we are forced to find a solution. If in the early human days we saw a friend get eaten by a snake, we would become much more aware because we would not want that suffering to be inflicted upon us. So we would watch our steps more carefully. We would take more precautions. We wouldn't be as reckless. And so we have to value ourselves. We have to value our energy. We have to value the divine consciousness within us. We have to protect the life force within us, because without it, we die. And so when we ask ourselves, where are the energy leakages? Where is our life force being taken from us? Then we begin the first steps of retaining more of this life force, this life energy. And so the most practical way to go about this is you find the smallest energy leakage first, because you may have a crippling addiction that is currently destroying your life. Think about it this way. If you're playing a video game and you're engaging in, let's say, a boss fight where you have to fight this big demon, but during this fight, there are a bunch of smaller demons coming around attacking you, taking you away from being able to deal with the main problem. So sometimes we have to get rid of the smaller demons first, so that our energy is more focused on dealing with the bigger problem. And so what I might suggest is just take a few moments to write down all the things that are stealing your energy, all of your addictions, all of your vices. If you're having negative thoughts all the time, if you're ruminating, if you're worrying, if you're allowing the fear in, if you're beating yourself up all the time. And you'll know if something is stealing your energy when you feel worse after you engage in it. So it's very important to be in touch with your emotional guidance system. Every time you feel bad, every time you feel negative, take a step back and reflect, what did I just engage in? And here you will become more aware of where these energy leakages are. And so let's say you have a list of 1 to 10, number 1 being your worst addiction, your worst problem that is destroying your life. And number 10, which is just a minor inconvenience. As you begin knocking off the easier problems, the easier targets, you begin cultivating that much more life energy, that much more willpower. With each smaller demon you get rid of, you have more energy to dedicate to focusing on the next problem. And so by the time you knock off 10 through number 2, you actually have the ability to deal with the number 1 problem. But if you're trying to deal with the number 1 problem when you have all these other things creating entropy in our system, creating chaos, stealing our energy, then how can we expect to defeat a demon that is far more powerful than our current state? It will continue to defeat us over and over again because we have not reached the level in which we can tackle that problem. And this is why self-destructive behavior often kills people, is because they're stuck in the same problem over and over again and never can escape it. They keep trying to go head first in attacking the demon that is the most powerful, but yet have not cultivated more power within. If we wish to have a better life, if we wish to be responsible for bigger and better things, there's no choice but to become more powerful ourselves. A lot of people want the fame and the fortune, they want the women, the relationships, but they are not the character that can handle these things. They have not yet earned the right to be in these kinds of positions. And so the best thing we can do is, rather than focus on the end goal of what we want, we focus on developing the best character. We become aware of the problems that are debilitating our life, keeping us down, slowing us down. And one by one we tackle these demons and overcome them. And if you're currently fighting a demon that you cannot overcome, then go and train, go and practice on lesser demons, lesser problems. The quicker we come to realize that the path to defeating the greatest demon, to overcoming our greatest problem, is through leveling ourselves up by dealing with lesser problems, by overcoming lesser demons. The quicker we can overcome our greatest demon and move on to a better life. But many people never stop long enough to pay attention, to see all the demons around them, so they don't even begin the journey. This is what all the successful people do. They spend their energy wisely. They tackle the small problems first. And so when you're living a life with not that many problems, you can take on bigger and more important problems. And it's not that successful people don't have problems. It's that their problems are more important than people who are not successful. People who are not successful are dabbling in things that are often silly. Drug addictions and alcohol. And you see, we can spend all day wondering why we are the way we are, looking at the past, what we've been through. But that doesn't change the fact that there are problems in front of you, and that you have the power now to deal with the smallest possible problem. Whenever I would fall down into a spiral of destruction, when I would go from exercising all the time, doing the good habits, into barely being able to get out of bed, it all starts with one small action at a time. You go outside, you stand in the grass, you do some breathing, you get some sun. That gives you a bit more energy. You do some stretches, you do a short 1 or 2 minute workout. You go for a walk for 10 to 20 minutes. When we're in this depression or when we are in a rut, the key is momentum, it's movement. The more we stay stuck, the harder it is to get out of it. And so it doesn't matter so much what you do as long as you start moving. Because the source of the problem is a lack of energy. This is why sometimes we may feel unmotivated. Because when we are infused with the vigor of life, there is a never-ending source of motivation. And perhaps not every day we will feel this way, but the more energy we cultivate, the more momentum we have, the more motivation we have, the more life we have within us to live. And so you see, the only thing holding us back are the chains of chaos, of entropy. It is our attachment to self-destructive behavior. And we cannot play the victim because the forces of negativity have to get our permission first before they can steal our energy. Just the same as where you have to welcome a vampire into your home before it can enter. So too, demons do not have any power over you without your consent. And so they must work and manipulate us into freely giving our energy to them. And once you recognize that you have the power, that you have the authority to dictate the life that you want to live, you get to dictate where your energy goes. Now you begin valuing your energy. Now you begin creating a life that you desire. And the more momentum you can build, the easier it is to escape the gravity of this black hole, the black hole of self-destructive behaviors, the black hole of chaos and entropy. And it all begins moment by moment. What is the simplest and easiest thing that I can do right now in this moment to help release a bit more energy within me? And if you want to start at the basics, start with breathing. Set a timer for 1 or 2 minutes and just focus on breathing deep breaths. Then increase the time. Use time as your best friend. Because if you're having to count in your mind, or if you're just going at something willy-nilly, it's a bit more difficult. whereas time gives us an order to rely on. It says, okay, in 2 minutes I will be done with this. But we have to have the desire, first and foremost, to get back up. We have to have the belief that we can do it, that we can make a better life for ourselves. In this lower state of being, we need hope. And then once we realize our power as a creator, once we recognize the force of God within us, then we may have understanding. So let us remain in the present moment and rest here. And we may even let God guide us to what the next action may be. And oftentimes we will get spontaneous ideas that will say, yes, go down this route. But it all comes down to managing our energy, stopping the energy leakages one by one, from the smallest to the biggest. And you know when something is positive, when it gives you more energy, when it makes you feel better. And you know when something is negative, when it makes you feel worse.